Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. On behalf of OTC Markets and our co-host, Zach Small Cap Research, we are very pleased you have joined us for our quarterly Life Sciences Investor Forum. Our next live presentation is from Izotropic Corporation. Izotropic is a medical device company focused on developing advanced imaging solutions for the early detection, diagnosis, and treatment of breast cancer. Please note, you may submit questions for the presenter in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings by clicking Book a Meeting in the top toolbar. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Bob Fast, Chief Executive Officer and founder of Izotropic, which trades on the OTCQB venture market under the symbol IZOZF and on the CSE under the symbol IZO. Welcome, Bob.
Thanks very much for the introduction, and thanks for everybody for joining. Over about approximately the next 20 minutes, I'll be focusing on our technology, need for breast CT, proposition for customers, our market position and objectives, and do a highlight of the investment opportunity here. And at the end, we'll have hopefully time for a few questions. There are going to be forward-looking statements in this presentation, so I just want to make everybody aware of that. I'll start by saying that there's been about $30 million US invested in breast CT to advance it to its current stage, which includes the pre-commercial model we call IsoView. $20 million of this investment has been to develop 4 progressively better units at UC Davis Medical Center. It really resulted from grants from the National Institutes of Health and a few other vendors. These prototypes were started many years back. The first human was imaged in 2005, and they spent years through research R&D to get to the current our current status. So the units have gotten progressively better over time. They've also had multiple clinical trials substantially on the 4th device. The last trial was approximately $3 million US on hundreds of live or on humans, women at Davis, and we were the beneficiary of this. We have the license agreement, the worldwide license agreement, and we were the beneficiary of the science, the clinical data, the tremendous brain trust, and really the amazing team of clinical and scientific people at the UC Davis Medical Center Hospital. The company's raised a further $10 million Canadian to design, engineer, and build the 5th unit. This is a pre-commercial model that is near manufacturing ready, and we call it IsoView. Really, with the $10 million, we obviously have this pre-commercial model, but we've established an engineering facility in Sacramento, California, and we built our own engineering team. So we have manufacturing ability to build these units in our facility right now. So we have the know-how. We've filed for some unique patents. We'll touch on that later in this year. We have the bill of materials in place for every nut, bolt, screw, and piece that we need. And we have the procurement set up and for redundant supply lines, which is important. IsoView is a lot more than just one type of breast imaging. It is a true platform device that will have multiple indications for use over time, and will have multiple revenue sources over time. And you can expect more details regarding this, which we plan to disclose in the coming months. Overall, the breast imaging industry is pushing for better imaging, more regulation, easier access to technologies, and we believe breast CT is going to play a major role. There's 4 things that any company needs to do to take over a market, be disruptive, and that is evidence. You need to produce the evidence through clinical data in our case. Performance, the device needs to be robust, reliable, and perform consistently over its life cycle of probably 7 or 8 years. Safety obviously needs to be safe. It's got to operate every day. And cost, the device needs to be very cost effective to enter and dominate a market like this. And we believe IsoView is already at the forefront of all of these. The breast imaging market is booming without a doubt. By the time we estimate we'll have FDA approval, the breast imaging market in the US, starting there, will be approximately $1.55 billion. That's for device and software, and about $7.2 billion globally. And these are from reliable research sources. Both these markets are forecasted to continue to grow well into the future. The growth is being driven by regulations and increased breast cancer awareness, the development of new technologies, and certainly AI integration, which we have through our reconstructive algorithms that we're partnered with Johns Hopkins to develop and have developed. And we will have different strategies for U.S. and the global adoption, including different pricing models. And we are aggressively committed to making sure that anyone who wants an IZO unit will get one. What are the factors supporting this market growth? Standard of care imaging have major limitations, especially with patients with dense breast tissue. Standard of care right now meaning mammography, tomosynthesis, or 3D mammography, ultrasound, and MRI, which we'll talk about in more detail shortly. It's critical to note that 50% of the women in the US have dense breast tissue, and this percentage is substantially greater, as high as 70 or 80% in Asian Pacific countries. Everyone wants new technologies due to the high rates of missed cancers that cause stress, trauma, and premature deaths in many women who might still be here. The unmet need is great. The regulators know it. The insurance industry knows it. Doctors know it. And more patients are learning about it all the time. And again, we feel that breast CT will be one of the major answers in the future. IZO is a game changer for sure. We believe it offers the highest resolution breast dedicated 3D imaging of any device on the planet. It has 100 times greater spatial resolution than MRI. IZO does not require breast compression, and as a result, it eliminates tissue overlap. And we'll talk about that in a second, but mammography and DBT both require compression, and this means that lesions and tumors can hide in tissue overlap. This also means that normal tissue can overlap under compression and look like a lesion or a tumor on imaging, which results in false positives. And this leads to unnecessary follow-ups, biopsies, and certainly a lot of concern while women are going through workups and all of the testing before they find out they actually don't have cancer. So breast CT does not have this innate issue, and having no breast compression is a big key. In research studies at UC Davis, breast CT technology has been shown to detect lesions and tumors as small as 2 millimeters. The average size tumor found today on screening mammography is 11 millimeters. It's still the standard of care. With 2 millimeters, this equates to 12 to 18 months of potentially earlier detection with breast CT over mammography. So you understand what that means. Contrast enhancement, which we plan to use, it dramatically improves imaging. And IZO is potent on its own, but with contrast, it's even, it's unbeatable. The IZO is being indicated for breast cancer screening with contrast enhanced adjunctive to DBT for patients with dense breast tissue. So that's going to be our first movement into the market. So dense breast tissue is where the unmet need is, and that's where we're going to focus. It's important to note that cancer cells absorb differently than healthy tissue with contrast, and with contrast they light up really like a light bulb on breast CT imaging. So this makes it very easy to see a problem on imaging, and anybody who wants more information on that can contact us. What are the regulations supporting us? The FDA has updated their guidelines and is now enforced that all patients' breast density must be reported to them on their mammography results. Patients with dense breasts are recommended to discuss supplemental imaging with their primary care providers, and 3D imaging is going to be the next step for these patients. Excuse me. The U.S. Preventative Services Task Force is advocating for screening at age 40 now instead of 50. Why? Because finding cancers earlier means treatment and the best chance for saving lives. They've also put out an urgent call for more research on imaging patients with dense breasts. This tells you what a big problem it is and how large the unmet need is. Insurance mandates are increasing, resulting in more coverage. We feel insurance providers will support IZO because it's more cost-effective to pay for early detection imaging than it is to treat someone with breast cancer. So IZO is going to provide the tool that fills these gaps for patients with dense breast tissue. Here's a little biopic on what the challenges are with traditional imaging. Start with the mammography. The poor sensitivity in dense breast imaging, as low as 50%, depending on the density of a woman's breast. It's still painful compression, and 2D imaging really limits accuracy. 3D mammography, or DVT, is a limited improvement in extremely dense breast tissue, but requires a higher radiation dose imaging, and still has false positives, and we understand the problems with those. Ultrasound is another tool. It's operator dependent, produces high false positive rates, which is of course an issue, and is ineffective for deep tumors. MRI, certainly the best imaging device for the 3D imaging device that's sanctioned right now. It's expensive, long scan times, requires contrast injection, and accessibility to major centers and in people who are covered typically. So we're talking about IZOView now. It's true 3D imaging. It eliminates tissue overlap and distortion. Technology detects tumors as small as 2 millimeters, months and possibly up to a year and a half early detection. The contrast enhancement improves detection in dense breast tissue. And with no compression and faster throughput, we're talking about a 10-second exam as opposed to a 30 to 60-minute MRI exam. So let's look at hypothetically an example for the purpose of discussion here and see why IZOView could be very appealing to customers. Let's say, again, hypothetically, because we haven't set our pricing yet, that IZOView was priced from a scan standpoint between $150 and $500, and the device cost was between $250,000 and $700,000. With performance comparable to MRI, and that's really what we're competing with, at a fraction of the cost and with a much faster scan time, it's really easy to see that a device like ours with this price point being rapidly and readily adopted. How is our technology de-risked? As mentioned, there's been 4 prototypes and years of R&D at UC Davis and obviously clinical studies. But each of these devices have been upgraded with hardware and software for better clinical and imaging performance. UC Davis, there's been multiple clinical trials, as mentioned, on hundreds of women against the whole standard of care. And it certainly has demonstrated the capabilities of breast CT. So I said UC Davis has also published approximately 50 papers on breast CT. So based on their performance and their findings, we are not at all worried about what our technology can and will do. With the global licensing rights to breast CT, we've also been the beneficiary of all this R&D. So we really hit the ground running when we adopted everything they knew and a lot of the people that came along to help us. Our next step is to formally generate clinical data for IZOView. And we'll do this by partnering with Tier 1 hospitals in the United States for our clinical study. We can look at some of our revenue model and pricing strategies. Again, our number one mandate corporately is to make sure that anyone that wants an IZOView unit is going to have one. This requires multiple sales models to make us attractive to customers of all sizes and shapes around the world. Those options are a capital purchase, a situation where we would get 50% down and then the balance on installation. Leasing options will probably be widely used. Lease to own, we understand that, and term leases, all of these would be maybe some down payment or no down payment, but monthly payments that fit with our profit margin objectives. We're going to introduce a subscription option as well. Think about a subscription option as a software subscription where the customer pays a flat monthly fee or annual fees for the device, or they can subscribe to various packages offering different numbers of scans. And pay-per-use, in this situation, the company will typically own the device and charge a percentage per scan, and it would be a higher percentage than if a customer put a deposit down. But in some cases, we would go after a deposit, or we would do that in every case if we could. And depending on what they put down, they would pay a lower percentage. And these options are really going to be offered to medical institutions, hospitals that don't have the budget to buy a capital item like this, but have a little bit of it or really want one. So By having flexible payment models, we'll make sure IZOView is accessible to all imaging centers globally. And we're certainly going to remain focused on making sure that our pricing is low, but our margins are going to be strong. Let's look at the sample return on investment for a customer doing a capital sale. These are hypothetical. As I said, we haven't announced or nailed down our costs yet. We're still a few years away from that, but we're going to use $550,000 US right now as a benchmark to buy and install a device. We're going to talk about a benchmark of $500 a scan, a conservative number of 16 scans per day. Certainly, IZOView could do double that easily. The business operates. We use an operating annual days of 250 per year. The business operating costs for the device will be approximately $220,000 per year. And given these assumptions, the customer will generate $2 million in revenue, annual profits of approximately $1.8 million after operating. The customer would break even in under 4 months with this model. There would be minor maintenance and software fees, but that would be expected. But you can see from this model that it would be quite attractive, and I feel that something along these lines is realistic and achievable for profit-related healthcare systems. Now let's look at pay-per-use ROI. We'll use the same assumptions. We'll use a 10% scan fee to Izotropic and a 7-year term for this, and that's sort of what we're focused on. Customer again generates $2 million per year, has fees payable to Izotropic of $50 per scan, which again works out to about $200,000 a year. The customer has an annual profit of $1.6 million approximately after operating costs. And over 7 years, the customer would generate just over $11 million in revenue. Again, we can expect a small annual percentage for maintenance and software, which could be paid by the company or the customer, depending on the contract. And again, our plans to scale our plans to be scalable so that anyone who wants an IZO unit can have one. We expect pay-per-use agreements are going to be very popular and critical to breaking into global markets in developing countries. Expansion strategy and future growth, starting with the US, which will be a major market for us. We're going to target top cancer centers, private imaging clinics, and also retail health providers, believe it or not. We'll do this by promoting our clinical data from our FDA study, which will be the validating aspect of it, by device promotion at global conferences and trade shows, by publishing data from patient engagement studies from the patients who actually are in the studies and tell us what they liked and didn't like about us, by engaging with industry key opinion leaders, by offering device placements for individually funded research partners, by word of mouth through our board and advisory, and by traditional advertising. In Europe, we'll seek a CE mark, which is the EU device approval process. We're planning to be very aggressive on this. We are currently evaluating and are in discussions with what's called a notified body, which is the first step for us. And a notified body is with you from start to finish through that process. We'll certainly leverage early clinical data from our FDA study, maybe take the first 100 patients and start the application process in the EU. And we'll go sooner if we can use data from UC Davis. Globally, I can say that I'm in discussions with a number of professionals in the imaging space with the intention of establishing distribution in several major countries. We'll be focusing on Muslim majority nations as well that are currently underserved. And just to give you a profile, these nations are prioritizing modesty. Breast cancer screening rates are low as a result. This results in a disproportionate number of breast cancer deaths. And really compared to new cases, we believe that given the discussions we're having, that IZOView will be a game changer in these nations, as IZOView scans do not require breast exposure, breast compression, or breast handling. So where are we now? We have a pre-submission meeting scheduled with the FDA 1 week from today. We'll have a team meeting the day before with our group. We submitted a pre-submission filing with a detailed clinical study plan in January, which we put out a very comprehensive press release on that, which can be seen. We're looking at for actionable feedback from FDA to move forward with our clinical study, and we'll be putting out a press release in the days following that people can watch for. After we finish this meeting, we will complete our global business plan and our comprehensive financial modeling, which is one of the things that's required for us to really sit down with major funding entities and secure the funding that's required. From a funding perspective, we're considering the following options. This is our preferred mechanism to obtain funding right through to commercialization. I'm seeking an annual drawdown scenario tied to completion of milestones. And I think that this is the safest way for an investor to invest. And certainly we're up for the challenge to produce milestones based on the money that we have targeted the use of proceeds for every single year for the next 5 years. Convertible debt could be the second scenario. This is a similar situation. It could be a pure debt relationship, or it could be one that provides the lender with the option of converting all or part of the debt into equity. In this particular situation, if this is an option that's taken up, it would come with a market cap valuation more in keeping with what we feel our market cap value is, and maybe we put a long warrant life on that and have all our financing tied up with that vehicle. And there may be non-dilutive options as well. To recap before we get into questions, there's no question we believe we have the best imaging device on the planet and the solution for a lot of what's wrong in the industry. There are 4 major things that the company needs to do to take over this market, as mentioned: producing evidence through clinical data. We're confident with prototype clinical data and the clinical data that we will produce from our FDA study that the evidence will be dramatic and speak for itself. From a performance standpoint, the device needs to be robust, reliable, perform consistently over its life cycle. We've designed and engineered and manufactured IZO for this purpose. And the latest device at UC Davis is still there, still operating. It's been there for several years. So we understand the robust nature of what we're doing. Safety is paramount. And obviously the device needs to be safe. It needs to operate every single day, and it needs to operate the same way. Breast CT technology has demonstrated safety in clinical trials on hundreds of patients over many, many years. And of course, we'll undertake all the required certifications we need. In terms of cost, any new device needs to be very cost effective to disrupt a market or take over a market. Certainly, we're looking at one of our objectives. We've run through some hypothetical scenarios here today that demonstrate that this is more than achievable, and the ROIs and still the company making a good, strong profit margin. Our valuation and market capitalization, right now we're trading about half the value of the money that's been invested to develop IZO, never mind the team and all of the preamble and pre-manufacturing capability. We really have created a lot of value with this money, and right now the chalk marks say we're only worth about half of that. Given everything we've talked about, we believe that Izotropic is incredibly undervalued, that the proposition is high, and that the opportunity in this price range is very attractive for any long-term investment. Now we'll take some questions. So the first question is, can you comment on Koning and their technology? I could say a lot of things about Koning. What I will say is that they have a device similar to ours. They had it approved by the FDA as an adjunct to mammography in 2015. They came out of the gate very, very slow. The indication for use could only be used with mammography, and I think it took them a while to get their momentum up. As far as I know, up until a few years ago, they had a few units in the United States. I think they took their marketing program to Asia and other places. I will also say that I have a couple of big shareholders who are also shareholders of theirs, and they told me that the last financing they put money in was over 200 million US. So that might give you a sense of just how big this market is. Koning today has about 24 units installed worldwide, which is not much to talk about, but it gives you a sense of just how big the value proposition is. Where do we plan to manufacture is the next question. We signed a license agreement with the Regents of the University of California, and part of that licensing agreement was that, if possible and where possible, based on reasonable economics, the manufacturer of IZO would be in the United States. This is mostly because the National Institutes of Health, the government-funded organization, put up almost $20 million. So we'll manufacture in the U.S. If at all possible. If tariffs are in place when you start to market IZO, how will this affect your costs? Obviously, that's on front of everybody's mind right now, and probably in the world, but certainly in many parts of the world. Tariffs, because we're producing in the United States based on information, albeit changing information weekly, we feel that this would be an advantage for the company, and that we would be less affected by that. We could be effective. It could be effective in countries where we sell to. Is the FDA clinical trial completed? No, we have not completed the trial as yet. We filed a pre-sub, which means that we filed what we would call a design for our trial, and we expect the trial to take place to be in effect later this year. But we're looking at about another 3.5 years for approval. Next question is, does the unit require lead shielding? Every single X-ray device on the planet requires lead shielding, and that could be leaded walls, leaded partitions, covers. Anybody goes to the dentist, there's definitely some shielding required for any and every X-ray device. Izotropic has a patent and has built a self-shielding device into the unit that you see, and the only exposure is to the breast, and we have the only patent on a device like ours, and we expect that this will be a huge benefit because there's no handling. The clinician does not have to be present for this. The next question is, what is your main strategy to quickly gain market share as things proceed with the FDA? Well, I can tell you that we've had, without making any outward calls, because we don't have an indication of use yet, so we can't go out and market our product yet or tell people what our product does, and that would certainly be tying our shoelaces together with the FDA. So our plan here is to obviously take advantage of early adopters. We've had inbound calls and inquiries from probably 20 different hospital groups, organizations, probably 10 different countries. As I said, there's distributor interest growing in some other countries. So we certainly will be taking advantage of early adopters and using our advisors and our well-known personalities to help accelerate our entry to the market. The next question is, are you able to comment on any of the new devices, products that are in your investor timeline? Because we haven't announced them, I can't, but I can tell you that right now we've identified 14 different indications of use for IZOView and products that we plan to build that would serve other aspects of a woman's journey through breast health. And you will be hearing about one of the major developments very soon. And I think that's the end of the questions. I think I just want to let everybody know there's a link to video and there's a social media it's a social media link in the resource tab. So if that's helpful to anyone. If we have time for one more question that just came in, what do you see as the potential MC of this company if FDA approval would you consider a bigger company buyout if the price was right? Certainly one of the exit strategies is a buyout from a major company. I can tell you that all the majors are well aware of who we are, and several of them have visited our facility in Sacramento, or at UC Davis, pardon me, not our facility. But certainly they're well aware of this. So a major, that was the original plan was to really do a beauty contest. I think we do have the talent now to build this company. I think with a real industry CEO, as much as I helped get it here and I was the founder of the company, we certainly would be looking for an industry CEO that could take us to the next level. I guess, no, sorry, I have to wrap it up now if there's any other questions, please contact us directly. Thank you kindly.